All right, so we've been moving pretty quickly through this project, and before we move on and add some cameras and create some renders, I just want to do a sanity check. There's a few things that I want to change, a few things are misaligned, and some of the materials aren't looking as good as I wanted. So let's jump into the perspective view using P, and I'm just going to zoom in over here, and let's run an interactive render. And because we've had the denoiser on, we haven't really been able to see too many of the details. We've just been doing test renders. So obviously these walls look pretty nice as is, but if we actually let it render a bit more, we can see the texture on this wall. It's pretty extreme and it's not exactly what we want. So let's stop that render and close the interactive, and we can stop the denoising from happening during interactive rendering by going to the Performance tab and just turning off Fast Preview Denoise during render. And now it's not going to denoise, so we're going to see more of those details, but it's going to look more noisy. But at this stage, let's switch it off. And I'm going to jump into Cosmos. And let's go to Materials. And this time I'm actually going to go to Concrete, and this Concrete White is quite nice, so I've downloaded that. And let's just select our ceiling and our walls. And let's apply this concrete white wall, and let's try that interactive render again, and this time you're going to notice it's not going to go as blurry or denoised, so we might have to wait a little bit longer. But already I can tell that these walls and ceiling are looking much nicer. They haven't got such an extreme material on them, so I'm happy with that. So let's stop that and close the interactive render. And another thing I noticed was on this shelf, let's run interactive render again. It was just the wood grain wasn't lined up. It looked a little bit off to me. There's some real noticeable knots here. So what we're going to do is change something in the material and also realign this UVW map. So let's stop that. And I'm going to open the material editor. So you can press M if you want on the keyboard. And let's select the wood from our shelf. Things are getting a bit messy in here, so I'll pull this over, make some space, and in here you'll see that in between our texture and our material we have a Corona UVW randomizer, and what this map does is allow us to randomize textures quickly on multiple materials. In this case we just want to turn off face material, and if you go through and do that for each of the maps that have it, so there's another one here and another one on the normal. When we run the interactive render again, that should have updated and we won't have the seam down the middle. I also want to move this knot, so what we can do is just move that over a little bit. With our shelf selected, I'm going to go into the modifier tab, and under UVW map let's select that gizmo, and let's find a way of showing everything on one screen. I'm going to pull that there. Let's close the material editor. And if I pull this up and down, we can see that the texture on our shelf is moving. So we can move that until we've got a nice position. I don't really want to see any knots on there, or very few. So let's just move that around until we get it in a place we like. So I think something like that's pretty nice. Again, no kind of extreme textures, big knots in the middle there. I think that's going to work just fine. And another thing I noticed was some of these items on this shelf aren't exactly aligned properly. Some are going through the wall. So what I'm going to do is select the ceiling and hide that, and then we can go through, let's go to the front view and zoom in on that, and you see we've just got a few things that are a little bit unaligned. So I'm going to turn off snaps with A and just get these so they are sitting on our shelf. See, there's little gaps here. Maybe that can go up a little bit. P and Z, perspective and zoom. We can also bring out this shelf a bit. It's in the wall there, so let's pull that out. These guys can come out a little bit, and just make sure everything is aligned, so when we do render, we don't have to come back in and move some stuff around. So I'm just making sure everything's lined up nice, and that is all looking good. So let's unhide all, go back to the camera, and one last thing I want to do is, because we instanced these two chairs, they're exact clones of each other. So let's run another interactive render. I'll make that full size, and this time I'm going to use the region tool. So I've selected that and click and drag, and now this is only going to render our selected area, and this is useful if you just want to render a small part to see what's happening. So if we let that render a little bit, we're going to notice that we've got this wood grain. You see this notch here, we can see it here. So we've got identical chairs. So we can easily fix this. So if I stop the render, let's just minimize that for now, and we'll open the material editor. And let's choose the material that is on our stools. And then here, this is our wood. So we're going to use what was on the shelf before, so the UVW randomizer. So we'll go to Maps, Corona UVW randomizer. We'll plug our wood in, and then we'll plug that into our base object. And as I said earlier, the UVW map randomizer allows us to quickly randomize textures that are on multiple objects. So you can see the instance selected by default, and this is what we want, as this will randomize the texture by different objects in the scene. So now if I just plug in 1 and 1 in the U and the V, and we can close that, and let's open our render again and run an interactive render. We should now see that the grain on our stools are different, and these are the small things that are going to add that realism to our image. So now we can see we've got the notch there, but we haven't got it over here, and we've got the wood grain here. So these are now two different stools. So that is all good. I'm going to stop the render. Under region, let's disable all, and let's run an interactive render. And we haven't got a denoiser on this time, so we're going to have to let it run a little bit longer. But let that render, save it out, and I'll see you in the next one.